So today you get a treat. Your treat is you don't have to listen to me pine on for a while. That's treat number one. Treat number two is you get to hear from your missionaries who just went out a week and a half ago. We left at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning and drove a very long day, ending up in Tijuana, Mexico at Deborah's house. And it was an extraordinary trip, start to finish. And so I want to welcome them up. So the way we're going to do this, gang, we have, including me, 7 of the 8 of us who are there. Mary Devine wasn't able to be with us today, but the rest of us are here. And each one of them has some reflections to share. In a moment, you're going to see some images flash through the screen, so you're going to be able to see some of us actually hard at work. So we have proof that we actually did something in Mexico, not just eat amazingly good tacos, although they were amazingly good. But you'll see some of that as you hear the team speak. The last one who is going to speak is Mike, and he's going to talk. He's got his own set of slides, just a handful for you to take in based on his experience down there, which was pretty awesome. So you look forward to that. But I want to tell you that I am just so proud of this team that went down. A lot of things can go wrong when you go on a trip like this. Things can go wrong with mechanical issues, border issues, all that. We had no problems that way. Things can go weird with people dynamics, especially when you put them under stress. So we're in a foreign country. You know about 2 blocks into Tijuana, you are not in the United States anymore. And that is incredibly evident. We're not with people who speak our language, although a few, one in particular, could. You're not in your own bed. You don't have your air conditioner anymore. It's tight quarters. Add to that, I'm a taskmaster, and we worked our butts off. I'm serious. There's none left. We worked so hard for 3 days straight. A lot of times when you bring all that together, man, patience can run thin, egos can get pushed, and I just want to tell you, you have amazing people here. Crosswalk is awesome, and it was all good vibes the whole way through, supportive, hardworking, no whining, no issues, even though we were struggling with sleep and all that stuff. These guys were awesome. So please welcome to the stage your team who came up. Y'all come up, and we'll share the mic around. I think Lisa's first. Is that correct? No? She's pretty darn excited about that. In case they don't... yes, she wants to hug me, but it really looks like a choke. And as they get ready to say say what they want to say, and you're welcome to take as long as you like, at least 15 minutes apiece, if you would. Just kidding. But we do have 2 ways to help support Deborah's house today, because I know you're going to be excited about. 1, you already heard about the meal, and 2, we have a table of goods. We cleaned them out on their stuff. And these are, even if you don't wear an apron, buy an apron. Even if you don't need a clutch purse, buy a clutch purse. Give it to somebody. Somebody needs a clutch purse out there. And this is Christmas gifts, but all that goes to support their work, and they need the help. So here we go.
My name is Lisa Watson. Is this working?
Here we are, yep.
Okay. And this was my first mission with Crosswalk. I've been on other missions before to Guatemala. But really my excitement was to serve and to build some relationships with my fellow my crosswalkers. That really was based on a weekly see you on Sunday kind of thing, and I knew that with this opportunity we could dig deeper and build friendships. So when we got there, our first night in Tijuana, as Pete alluded to, you know, it's baptism by fire, for lack of a better descriptor. And the first night we were sharing around the table, our group, just kind of trying to get to know one another. And I likened how I was feeling to a blind date. So I don't know how many of you guys have been on a blind date. If you have, raise your hand, because you'll make me feel better. So I was feeling like I was walking into a blind date. I knew about Deborah's house, and I knew the great work that was being done there. And I knew that Crosswalk was a big part of that wonderful work and the support that we provide these women and their children. But I really didn't know what it was going to look like. Like, really, what was it going to look like? Was he going to be cute or not so cute? Was I going to be comfortable? Was it going to be awkward? Was the language barrier going to be strange and, really impede our communication? What else? How would I react to the children and the women, knowing the struggles that, not intimately that they've been through, but, that I have had a pretty privileged motherhood and great children, and so I was really kind of concerned how I would feel. Whether I could be myself, if I could stay in the moment and stay focused and work hard for Pete. And let me tell you, we worked very, very hard. We had a very ambitious plan in front of us because I think at the heart of it, the people like Pam, who had been there in January, had a desire to really transform the space in a way that would be very different for the people who live there. So did I say we worked hard? We worked hard, really, really hard. But in that moment of hard work, you realized that these women and these children were deserving of this space that would be a haven for them. And so it kept me focused and not whining, and getting back up on the ladder, which I didn't want to do. But as the days unfolded, all the worries that I had sort of slipped away. It was very easy to share a meal with these families and the children. It was super easy to play a card game, even though I didn't know a broken word of Spanish, and just make connections that I really didn't expect I would. So on the last day, I'm packing my bag and having a giggle with my bunkmate, I realized that I was looking forward to my second date at Deborah's house. So that's my experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Cortez. So this was my second trip to Deborah's house, and I was very comfortable going there the first time, and even more so the second time. However, I did notice the difference between first and second as far as how we were welcomed in the home, probably because when we first went, there was 4 families there, and we didn't know them or the children. Returning, there was 2 of the ladies still there out of the 4 with their children, so I felt like I knew them. They were very welcoming. Deborahs was, I felt like we were sisters this time. We always were, but more so. I saw the difference in the women there, and I really got to see what that program did for them as far as the way they carried themselves, the way they spoke, how involved they got with us, because last time they were kind of kept to themselves a little bit, very occupied with the children, and I understand that at that point they probably had a much bigger storm going on probably within them. Being with them this time, they spent more time with us. One of the young ladies actually was very involved in one of the days of our work. She just picked up a roller and started helping. The other young lady was helping with her children, and it was just very different as far as the support amongst themselves. And one of the things that I really appreciated about our team here that I had talked about previously was I think we made a really great team. The skills that some had versus others, how we balanced them, they taught me a lot. They were very patient with me and showing me how to paint, because I've never painted before. However, I found out I really like it. We were in charge of what projects we were going to be working on, and we did a punchline of materials together. We went down to Home Depot together. That was my favorite part. I love Home Depot, so I got to go twice. So I had taken a photo when we were in Home Depot, because I don't know, that was very touching to me. I don't know what, to see my team there and just everybody kind of went their own ways. We had a mission on who was going to get what parts, and it was very, 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 really fun. And It's the, what else can I speak to, Pam? What did you see? Well, if I think of something, I'll grab the mic again. Oh, we do? No, we do. We do need more men to join us. I know there's a lot of more skills out there, and also I think that Pam and Keith and Pete, they have a lot of skills, and they can use probably others that have the same skills, so just to work on harder, tougher projects. I mean, we are all an extra pair of hands, but I think it's a lot more helpful when you know what you're doing, and you know, you can take over something big while someone else is doing other things. So I really encourage you, men, please join us on our next mission, hopefully here in another 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, very good. Just a quick segue. I didn't think about this, but some of you who are new to Crosswalk might not have any idea what's Deborah's house. So Deborah's house is more than a shelter. There's actually, oh, thank you. Were you going to talk about this?
Go for it.
Oh, okay. So this is the official thing. This is a ministry of love to women and their children whose homes have become places of violence and risk, providing safe shelter where new ways of living can be learned and promoting a culture of peace in the family, encouraging, protecting, and restoring physical, mental, and spiritual health. The name and logo for Deborah's house comes from Judges. Deborah was a judge in the Old Testament, which is actually really cool because in a time where women were in no way equal, here you had a woman as a significant leader within the people. Vocational preparation is included during their stay, such as sewing classes and micro-enterprise. These items are sold to help the women, thus the table, the expenses of Deborah's house, and to develop business skills. So that's kind of what it's about. There are some shelters in Tijuana, but not a lot anyway. And Deborah's house is one of, I mean, a handful, if that, out of somewhere between 1 and 3 million people in the whole sprawl that's there. It's hard to know because a lot of people, they're not exactly counted in certain ways because of issues that are down there. This is a transformation center, a little bit to what Beth spoke about. As soon as the women come in, they get the medical attention they need if they need it, as do their kids. They get a lot of counseling over their months there. They're there for several months, not just for a short term. So they're committed to be there. Their kids get counseling, and some of the results of what we saw were exactly what Beth was alluding to. So I'm sure you'll hear more about that. Diane.
Hi, I'm Diane Merritt, and this was my first trip down to Deborah's house. And it was just very awe-inspiring to see what they're doing there and meeting the people. And even though I had very, very little Spanish, we were still able to communicate when we needed to. Smiles were universal, whether it be with the mothers or the children. As has been previously said, Pete is a very hard taskmaster, and I'd had an incident with the ladder collapsing right at the beginning and wasn't real comfortable getting back up on a ladder to paint again. But Pete was going to find something for me to do.
I didn't make her get back on the ladder. She did, she did that all by herself.
No, I did get up on the ladder because with Lord's help, I was back up there. But then the last day wasn't real comfortable still, as he knew. So on our second trip to Home Depot, we picked up toilet seats. And I learned how to change out toilet seats. Great many of them. But the smile on one of the women's face when she saw what I was doing in a bathroom that had a broken toilet seat or none, I mean, that said it all. Just the smile on her face and the appreciation of all we were doing there. And it's really, if you get the chance, it's something you should really do because it really speaks to your heart. Not only did I get to know the people there and help them, but I also got a chance to meet my fellow crosswalkers that were along, and it was a very good spiritual experience.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so my memory's back. So, like Pete said, these ladies go through this program while they're there, and one of the things I noticed about them, especially the last day, they really opened up about what was going on in their lives that brought them to Deborah's house. So just to see that, how the counseling and all the attention they've gotten there medically and psychologically and all that, how it's come full circle. One of the ladies was leaving that Sunday, I believe, or the Monday, She had her own apartment already, or home, and they were helping her furnish it and all. The children, they shared how they had some physical impairments, and just how the therapy they've gotten there has helped them. Like one little girl couldn't really use her arms or her legs. She's now walking. She's now using her arms like any other normal child. The kids would come up to us a lot, and well, me more so, I think, because I was able to communicate with them. And they were just always wanting to play, always wanting to talk, always asking questions. They'd always come to me and ask me about the rest of the crosswalkers. And the other thing was I'm losing my mind again. Let's see what else about the children. So I just saw how this program really does work for them, physically and mentally and spiritually. Some of them didn't know the Lord at all. One of the ladies didn't know the Lord at all, and she came to know the Lord Christ and while being there. The other she spoke to how she had drifted from her faith and how it had brought her back. So that was really, really beautiful to see and to hear. And we shared a lot of tears while they told their stories, and I was able to share some of my story with them, why Deborah's house is very special to me. And I'm very thankful that I can give back to that refuge that it is,
refuge,
because I really understand what it feels like to want to get away and heal. And so, thank you.
Great.
Good morning. My name is Pam Reuter, and this was my second trip. I think, gosh, it's so multifaceted. The change in the women and the children that were still there was very dramatic, as they've alluded to already. Just feeling more comfortable in their skin and being happy, as they seemed kind of empty the first time we were there. So that was really awesome to see. The drive down and drive back is always an experience, just with the fellowship and getting to know each other better. And you're 6 or 7 people in a van for 11 hours. It's quite a road trip. It's kind of a trifecta, because we know that we're down there helping Deborah's house and helping these ladies and working on the facility and supporting them, getting to know each other and supporting Crosswalk by doing a mission for Crosswalk. But then also just your personal growth. I mean, one of the things that I learned this time was I didn't have the supplies that I would use, because I do a lot of home improvement projects. Keith and I have been doing remodeling. I didn't have the supplies that I would necessarily be using. I didn't have the tools that I would want to be using. I didn't have my favorite paintbrush. I didn't have my ladder that I'm comfortable on. Other people were using things when I needed them, and I'm a very systematic, kind of regimented, organized person, and I had to completely give that up. If I couldn't get on a ladder, then I was down doing baseboards, and now I'm going to switch and do that, and then I'll switch and do that, and I was pinging all over the place, but never stopped. Keep moving forward. We had a huge punch list to get through, and that was a growing experience for me, to just be able to flow with it and not get stuck in my ways. And I'm usually pretty good at just having to have things my way and get it done, and I had to let go of that completely and just be so proud of the transformation that we did. If you're looking at the slides from what we started with to what we ended with, there's a boatload more work to be done down there, and I look forward to continuing being part of this mission.
Great. So to give you an idea what we did, if you didn't see some of the Facebook stuff that we posted, the primary structure that has been in place for 10, 13 years or so, which has Crosswalk's fingerprints all over it. Jeff Jones, he's a crosswalker. He's not here this morning, but Jeff Jones is a floor guy here in Napa. And before anybody was going to Deborah's house, Jeff Jones laid the tile floor that's still the tile floor there. Ben and Danny Newman put in their first kitchen that they used. That's since been remodeled and switched out, but we've got a deep heritage with this space. Well, most of that first floor had not been touched since it opened. And again, that was somewhere around 15 years ago now, somewhere in that neck of the woods. And it looked like it. It was just kind of drab and dingy. The shower areas, we knew that was priority one. The paint was peeling off the walls. Some of them didn't work. They looked terrible, uninviting. And see, think about these women who are coming from absolutely horrific experiences, and then come into this place, which is, it's nice, but not exactly awe-inspiring. And to see the transformation that happened to make that a fresh space, a usable space, partly because we had a guy like Mike here who actually knows what he's doing, and could fix the plumbing stuff and knew what to do for that stuff. We would have been lost without that kind of skill set. So it was just amazing transformation, which you'll hear a little bit more about. So that's the next piece of information that I forgot to tell you about early on. So, Sandy.
Good morning, Crosswalkers. My name is Sandra Schmidt. My husband, Mike, and I both are relatively new to Crosswalk. When I first heard about Deborah's house, I think I'm at a point in my life where it's like I kind of felt drawn and called to go. I really wanted to participate. I've never done anything like this before. I've never done mission work before, but I felt the calling to go. It was a lot of hard work, but so worth it in the end. I've made such great friendships, people that we knew in passing and saying hi on Sundays, but really got deeper relationships with our fellow church members. Hearing the stories of the women were heartbreaking and inspirational at the same time. Hearing where they were and where they're at now, seeing them being able to laugh and be joyous with us and their children, knowing what they went through and where they are now. Like I said, it was just inspirational to me. A lot of hard work for 3 days of being on a ladder and painting, being in small bathrooms and scraping paint off the walls, and it wouldn't stop. But seeing our work in the end was just very proud of what we did, the relationships that we built with the women and their children. A lot of the children wouldn't even say hi or look up when we first got there, but by the end they were climbing all over us and looking for us and calling us Hermano and Hermana. And actually, I think Mike was the only one that they called by name. It was Hermano Mike. ¿Dónde está Hermano Mike? It just made me feel really good and to be part of something bigger than myself. So I just really encourage you all to consider going on our next trip. Language, smiles, hugs, and high fives are universal in every language. If you can do that, you can communicate with these families and their children. So I just really encourage you to consider going. It's life-changing. So thank you.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Schmidt. I'm the husband of Sandy, as you heard. And what I've got up here is a little thing that I think I went on an extra mission as I went there. Was going down there with a skill set that I had since I was probably 17, 18 years old, learning from, and now 48 in November this year. And going down there to do all this work on this house and everything was one thing, but I think I gained something more than that. As I was collecting supplies and looking for parts and pieces and stuff, and like Pam alluded to earlier, limited amount of tools, supplies, and resources, and you're used to your own shop. Like I have a mobile shop, and it's like, I wish I could have brought it, but I didn't, and you just work with what you have. This little gentleman named Kevin offered to carry some stuff for me because he seen my arms were full. And as he carried them, he was like really proudful. He walking up the hill, and this is a hill, and we're talking a hill, and I must have meant 50 times a day?
Yep.
Yeah. It seems like I needed something, I could go down the hill and get it. So, but Kevin is 9 years old, and I think he's a 9-year-old child in like an adult body. He's very courteous, kind, warm. I compare him to a son, like the son we have. He's bright, he's warm, and he's reliable. Like the sun comes up every day. We just take that for granted. And this kid was very reliable. If I needed something, like this tile job we're doing right here, this was an amazing opportunity, and this is a little story I'll share. I was putting backerboard up, and for those of you who know who backerboard, there's like this grid work of where you're supposed to put the screws and stuff. He watched me do it one time with the drill and then put a screw in the wall. I go to do the second one. He grabs the drill for me and he kind of puts his hand on his chest like me, because we don't have this language. We don't speak nothing together. And it's all by hand gestures and everything. And he started doing the first drill. And his eyes lit up. And he's drilling it. And he's looking up at me as he's drilling instead of watching what he's doing. And I, trying to focus him back because I'm huge on safety. And he drills the first hole and he puts the screw right in. And from there on, the kid just tore it up. I just sat back and let him do it. And I think out of all of that, that was probably the most inspirational thing I could see, is that here's this kid that I don't know his full story. I don't know his scars in his head and the memories and the things he's seen and done. But I see this smile on this child's face when he looked up to me, that he got to drill a hole in a wall. For some of us that we go to work every day and we go, oh man, I go to work and drill holes in the wall. This kid enjoyed that, and that's what was really just awe-inspiring to me. At the end of that, we had to do some grouting. We're missing some tile. I asked him for tile, and of course, my translator, she says, where's some more tile? And Kevin goes, follow me type like attitude. So what does he do? He runs. I have to walk. I'm a little older. So as I'm going down there, and we get in this little shack, and he's got tile galore. So we grab a bunch of tile, we come up, we start doing this job. So getting back to the mortar mix, at the end of the job, he's actually making a little ball, and he wants to like make a little ball and make it like dry and everything. And he looks in the bucket and he sees like there's a lot more left. And he looks at me and he's like, and I said, I had to say, he wanted to play in it. And I made sure we were done with the job. And then he starts to reach in there, and I said, uno momento. And I just kind of wait for a minute. And so I put on the ground where we were working on this like retaining wall, I just dug out like a little 1x1 area. And I don't know if you guys can freeze it on that one picture with the stepping stone. That would be really cool, because this is really where it really all came together for me. And I dug this little trench about 1.5 inches thick, and I poured the rest of the mortar mix in there. And I wetted my hand, and I put my handprint in there. And as I put my handprint in there, he's like looking at me. So I kind of smiled at him. He kind of smiled back. And then I put his hand in there. And the meaning for that was that every time we did something, we constantly high-fived each other after every time we were done. So when the backerboard was done, we high-fived. When we put the tile up, we high-fived. It just didn't matter what we did, we high-fived. And that was like our universal connection, like job well done. And when we made this little stepping stone, and I wrote my name on it with a nail, because like I said, you just don't have a lot of resources sitting down there. And he wrote his name down on the bottom of it. And at the end, he had asked me something about casa, and I knew that was house. And so I got translated, and it basically says, can I take this to my new house? Because this is one of the children that was leaving the day after we left. And this is the picture of it right here. So you can see his handprint on the top left, mine's on the bottom right. And I don't even think it was dry yet, and he come running in after all the women here had cleaned the floor. He's walking in with this muddy like tile thing, and he can't wait to show everybody. He pulled Pete off a ladder, yanked him around the back and said, look what I made. And so for me, no one really said this, but this is kind of how I felt, and I've kind of heard someone else say it in our group. I felt like they didn't get as much out of it as I got out of it. I gave them something, but I got a lot more from it. And I think for me, it was just a really good grounding to understand that you can come from nothing to something, and that's what these children and women are doing, and that's what Deborah House is really all about for me, and seeing the positiveness. There's a picture up there of him grabbing my arm. I was just standing here like I normally do, my hands to my back, and I told him my phone's behind me so you can't see what I'm doing. He grabs my arm, and he puts it right on his chest, and he's like spreading my fingers as far as he can. And it's like, it's kind of painful, but in a good painful way. And that was huge for me, because he means a lot to me. So at the end, we got to listen to the women and their stories, and Pete had just mentioned maybe something, I should say something to Kevin, so we ended up writing a little letter to him. It was really inspirational, and it was about, when you have good times and bad times, please read this letter and remember me, remember all the times we had. And so I gave that to him at the end. I think that Deborahs was going to frame it and also translate it from English to Spanish so he can understand it a lot better. And I hope he keeps it with him forever. But I will reiterate the fact that, not that the fact that we need men, because these women rocked it.
Yes, they did.
I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm impressed. But we need more skill sets down there. There's a lot of things down there that need to be more attention to. There's a lot more facilities that need to be completed. There's a lot of things that need to be completely reworked. A lot of safety issues. It was a task to turn the water off. I had to dig a hole to find the water main. So it's just things like that. We just don't have enough time when we go down for 3 days to completely punch out everything. So if we can maybe take a second van next year. Sounds good to me. I'll even drive since Pete drove this time. All right. So for the most part, I have to just, and then this is the fact that I believe that if you are on the fence to do this, you give yourself a chance to go down. Even if you don't think you have a skill set, there's something for you to do down there. There's always something to do down there. And if it's not physically, it's at least with the children and the women. That's more than anything that they get out of. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Let's thank our team one more time. Pam can say one more thing.
I bought one of the aprons, and I wore it last night to cook dinner, and it cooks a good dinner. So
There you go.
support
That's all it
Deborah's
takes.
house.
Good. Thank you, guys. As they make their way down, a couple more things I just wanted to tell you about. Again, you heard how hard they worked, and they were awesome. But one thing they didn't say was that we saw a lot of worship happen, and we saw a lot of salvation happen. Two churchy church words. The worship that happened was not when we sang a song, because we were lousy at it, honestly. The worship happened from before breakfast until and right up through dinner. And the worship happened on ladders, on knees, with paintbrushes in our hands, with scrapers, with hugs with children. This is true worship. Sometimes we get tricked into thinking worship is about singing and clapping our hands and all that. The brother of Jesus says, anyone who sets himself up as religious by talking a good game is self-deceived. This kind of religion is hot air, and only hot air. Real religion, the kind that passes muster before God the Father, is this. Reach out to the homeless and loveless in their plight, and guard against corruption from the godless world. So a lot of worship happened in those few days. A lot of worship. And there was a lot of salvation going around too. We saw the before and the after. That was one of the coolest parts of this trip. One of the gals who now is in her own home somewhere in Tijuana, she barely spoke a word when we were there in January. We're not exactly sure why, partly because she was probably shell-shocked from what she was just coming out of and didn't have a voice yet. The woman's got a voice. It's a pretty loud one, in fact, and bold and confident. She's got a new countenance about her. The other gal who was there, Valeria, Miriam and Valeria. Valeria was another one that when we were there in January, you could tell there was a serious chip on her shoulder. And she had a right to have it because of what she'd been through, because of what her children were forced to witness. Big chip. This was the woman who had this infant girl. You see the movie Monsters, Inc.? Yeah? Remember the little girl Boo in that? This was Boo. I wanted to bring her home, man. She was just adorable. In January, she was weak. And the reason she was weak was because of inattention. This is a woman who gave birth to this child, did not want this child. We're not sure about the circumstances of why she became pregnant with this child, but you can probably fill in the gaps. And so she had this real tension of, do I even want to do anything to help this child survive? And in truth, she didn't. But because of the love and the care and the counseling of Deborah's house, what we saw this trip was a healthy mother who embraced her child, kissed her incessantly on her big chubby cheeks, who is happy to let other people do the same thing. And you saw a strong, little, beautiful toddler toddling around as she should, full of health. That's salvation. We sometimes relegate salvation to this afterlife experience, and certainly we have hope for that, but salvation is now. Salvation is healing. Salvation is becoming whole. And we saw that in front of our faces. It was undeniable. But it wasn't just for the women of Deborah's house. It was us. Because when you enter into that space, and when you worship like that, you find yourself just a little more saved than you were before. You experience the presence of God more powerfully because you are joining God and what God is all about. So you missed out. But it's not too late, because there are more opportunities to serve. And when you help today, that is an act of worship. And that is an act of sowing into salvation, healing what is broken. So, that was our experience. And we're just getting started. Crosswalk is probably going to need to take on, a stronger role with how things shape, because we can and because we must. And we can do amazing things down there. And I hope that you'll get behind that and help us continue to do incredible things, because it changes the life and the trajectory for those people that they touch. So let's pray together, and then Brian's got one more song, which is fitting for today, and then we'll have a feast together, a fiesta. God, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to go to an uncomfortable place where we didn't know the language, where we couldn't trust the water, where it was hot and sticky, where we worked our tails off because the worship was awesome. And to see your salvation at work in Deborah's house's clients' lives and the leaders' lives and in our lives. Just breathtaking. And so grateful, God, for this church who is so comfortable looking beyond ourselves to help Napa in so many ways that we do, and helping Kenya in the ways that we help our orphan kids in Faraha, and now these women and children of Deborah's house, that they would find a refuge and hope and salvation and a future. We did something to help break a curse, to break a pattern, and we are so grateful that we got to do it. So God, inspire us, that we might continue looking for ways to do it again, because it is a privilege and an opportunity that we don't want to miss. I pray that you'll keep kindling and rekindling the memories of the teams that have gone down so far, that they would continue to tell the story of this incredible work, that more and more enthusiasm would be there for making a difference in the world in ways that you are fully behind. We ask that you bless this food to our bodies that we're about to eat, that as we take every spoonful of this delicious Mexican food today, that it'll remind us of our extended family across the border who are doing incredible work, who've invited us to come alongside, and we get to do that. And I pray that as this next song we're going to enjoy, called Learning to Fly, I pray that will really be the case for Miriam and her children, and Valeria and her children, that as they take their next steps, as they graduate out of Deborah's house, that you will be with them in powerful ways, opening doors that they're able to see, that they will stay on the path that will keep them well and whole. Keep them in our prayers, God. Never let us forget. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.